So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. So it's the day after Thanksgiving. Um, I hope everyone had a prosperous, abundant filled Thanksgiving. Well, not everyone, but the people you know, that I resonate with. It's a lot going on in the world. And the more and more I look at the world, the more and more I really understand what it is that I do. And I am a avid occultist in the arena, I'm going to say, of the darkest parts of human nature. I like to study as an occult practice because that's an occult practice too, people don't understand. When you study the darkest parts of the human psyche and human nature and the darkest parts of nature in general that cannot really be explained by human beings. So then we have scientists who will give you these hypotheses or give you these pseudo facts, telling you, for example, there is no such thing or there is no life after death. That's what's been circulating in the media. Well, not the media, but online lately. Different stories are popping up where scientists are having this, you know, eternal conversation about life after death, when the physical body is no longer here. And they are coming to the conclusion in their pseudo facts that there's nothing after death. And I find that very interesting that they are that bold to say that. And let me preference this with this. They always end it with, we think there's nothing after the physical body dies. So they don't believe that consciousness can survive after death. And what I want to say to those scientists, you're absolutely right. Your pseudo facts are absolutely right. Consciousness cannot survive after death. You're absolutely right. But what you're wrong about is that there is nothing after the physical existence. And I'm not talking about going to heaven and eating grapes and drinking honey and milk. I'm not talking about that bullshit. I'm not talking about going into a pit in the bottom of the universe being tormented by the devil and fire and brimstone. I'm not talking about that either. I'm talking about the process of spirituality and the process of the subconscious mind and what happens to you after you pass away physically. See, scientists only can examine the physical conscious part of your mind, which is who or what makes us who we are now in this state, in this moment that we're living in now. Like, for example, I am the occult view or Sia Grant or, whoever you want to call me. I am that persona right now. But if I were to pass away, that persona will also pass away as well. Or it may go on into the astral realm, which they don't give any acknowledgement to because they don't think it exists. Okay, that's fine. That's the physical conscious part, the physical consciousness, or that physical conscious part of me. That's what that is. But the subconscious, or the, what else do they call it? The unconscious realm. They don't understand that. And they don't want your average person to understand that either, from what I'm gathering. Not trying to be, woo woo woo, but I don't think they understand it. They don't want us to understand it either for some reason. That is why they hate wise women, aka what they call witches, but wise women who are in tune with the spiritual realm. That is why they invoke so much fear around certain people and certain elements, because they want to keep people dumb, delayed, and stupid, and on a destructive course or journey that is disconnected from spirituality. And that's what brings me into the video that I want to talk about. In the pursuit of perfection leads to disease. Perfection is a disease. And I know what you all are going to say. What are you talking about, the occult view? How can perfection be a disease? It's all around us. In the pursuit of perfection, and it's been shown to us throughout literary history, throughout cinema history, they've been telling us in the pursuit of perfection leads to destruction, misery, and chaos. This is what I'm talking about. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things in this video. You know how we do over here with the occult viewers. This is what we do. I was watching the movie The Substance, with the great Demi Moore, and it was a very interesting movie and case study. And if you don't know what the movie is, or if you've never heard of it, go and look it up. The Substance with Demi Moore. It just came out not that long ago. And what I found interesting about the movie, without giving it away, is a person's pursuit of being perfect. And being perfect is not the same thing as trying to be your best self. There's a difference between trying to be a better version of yourself versus trying to appease other people's disease, which is the pursuit of perfection. And the pursuit of perfection also ties into pedophilia and the abuse of children, girls and boys, to be clear. It ties into that. The pursuit of trying to look young and youthful like a child when you are over or past those years. And the influence on this planet, the diseased minds, mainly men and the women that support them, but mainly men and their diseased minded agenda of perfection. You see this with people like Andrew Tate. You saw it with people like Kevin Samuels, and I don't give a fuck who gets mad. You see it in so many individuals, and like I've always told you, what they do at the so-called pseudo top, it trickles down to the average person. Now you have average men who are not even that attractive expecting you to be perfect physically. That's a diseased mindset, and it leads to pedophilia and the abuse of children. I'm going to keep saying that because it's very important that you hear that, because that goes back to Walt Disney, the creator and the what did they call him, the tycoon of Disney. Walt Disney, he was one of the most diabolical people to ever exist. And a lot of people have come out and said that he was very interesting with children, boys and girls, but mainly little boys. Allegedly. There have been allegations. So when these scientists say that there's nothing after death, they're wrong. Because Walt Disney is still alive. His company is still thriving. I know that's kind of, out there, but just hear me. I don't mean physically still alive, but his influence is still here. You see it in people like Andrew Tate. You saw it in people like Kevin Samuels. You saw it in other men as well, who are on this destructive journey of perfection. And they want this to be transferred to women. Walt Disney destroyed a lot of people's lives with his pursuit of perfection. He wanted a perfect child. And after he even made a statement that after 30, a woman's um, value or her youth is it goes down the drain. And in this movie Substance, one of the characters said that to Demi Moore's character, that don't you know after 25, a woman's eggs start to shrivel up? Talking about her reproductive system, basically. So now they've even lowered the age. They've lowered the age. It was 30. But now they've taken 5 years off of it. And now they're trying to say that after 25, a woman is not worth it anymore or she's no good. That's a diseased mind. That's disease. That's the pursuit of perfection. And the actor that said that in that movie, The Substance, was Dennis Quaid. And he's very interesting too. I've listened to some of his interviews. He's an interesting character as well, like a lot of those actors out there in Hollywood. But when he said that, I said, oh, he's taken from, I said, he's up under the Walt Disney effect. That entire movie, The Substance, that was about Walt Disney, child. That was about Walt Disney. Subconsciously, that was about Walt Disney. We live in a society now that tells you and influences you to ignore the little things in life that can bring you joy and happiness and graciousness. And it tells you to be comfortable being anything but yourself. That is not about being your better, or the term, that is not about being, what's that, what's that terminology or that saying, I'm being my best self, or, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. Perfection is not being the best version of yourself. That's not the same thing. Being the best version of yourself is also about coming to certain hard truths and coming to terms with that you are a human being and we are prone to make mistakes. We are prone to have errors in judgment. We are prone to, sometimes, get duped by people. For example, getting duped by a person that you thought was your friend or you thought was a good lover to you, would be a confidant to you, and then they turn on you. We're human. It doesn't mean that we're not magical or spiritual, but we're human. Spirituality and magic is not about making things perfect. Perfection is a disease, and it leads to what I call toxic positivity. And it all leads back to the Walt Disney effect, because toxic positivity is like living in a world, like, for example, there was an episode of Charmed many years ago where Paige and was it Paige? Well, how did it go? Paige, Phoebe, and Piper. They ended up in some type of alternate reality where it was sunshine, the sun was shining all the time. There was never any nighttime. Everyone was always smiling. Everything was just so happy hunky dory. It kind of sounds like the version of heaven in the Bible, a place where there's no balance. That type of perfection is a disease. That's not of a balanced nature. But in this reality, if you did one thing wrong, like for example, if you parked in your neighbor's parking space in this twisted reality, and I've talked about this before, if you parked in your neighbor's parking space in this twisted reality on Charm, it could get your foot cut off or get your hand cut off. And everyone would just smile and say, well, you shouldn't have parked in this, you shouldn't have did that. There was no balance. You couldn't show any emotion. You had to be perfect. That's a disease. That is a disease. Now, how did that happen? How did that happen? Shit. But that's a disease. That's not being the best version of yourself. That's trying to get you to be someone else. Because other people are uncomfortable with their own mortality, especially a lot of old men. They are uncomfortable with aging. So what they do is they try to flip it back on other people, specifically or particularly the woman. And this isn't about, men versus women. This is about humanity. This is about humanity and keeping a certain balance in the frequencies and the vibration. So in this movie, The Substance with Demi Moore, the men were the ones who were uncomfortable about their, and all you saw were a bunch of old white men that were trying to tell Demi Moore's character basically, you're too old to continue in this career that the character was in. She was some type of exercise guru. And they were trying to convince her she was too old when all of them looked older than her. And I'm not trying to change up, anybody's opinions or anybody's preferences. But what I'm showing you and what this movie really showed me, everything is always in plain sight. This this propaganda and agenda going down this road of or this journey of perfection is a disease, and it's going to cause the destruction eventually of civilization. That is not being a better version of yourself. And I see a lot of well-known YouTubers chasing this elusive perfection that they're never going to catch. You know why you cannot catch perfection? Because perfection does not exist. There are even imperfections in the universe that we can't explain. Just like with magic, magic is people can use magic for good purposes and they can use it for darker purposes or sinister purposes. Nature is the same way. Nature is loving and cruel all at this. It's beautiful, loving and cruel all at the same time. So if there's no perfection in nature, at least in accordance with our human definition of perfection, If there's no perfection in nature that way, because there are glitches in nature too, then why do you expect a human being to be perfect? And maybe that's why they're pushing this um, AI agenda as well. I don't have anything against AI per se, but there is an agenda that's being pushed. If you're not a robot, they don't want you. And then you wonder why you have people like Karen Huger's 37-year-old assistant, Matt. You wonder why he unalived himself. And there's no disrespect to that because people are depressed, people are oppressed, and they don't have the life tools to deal with stress like we do. They don't have the tools because they live in a world where they are told if you are not perfect. See, I don't give a fuck what nobody say about me. I know I don't want to be perfect. I'm imperfect. I'm imperfected because I've seen what the pursuit of perfection has done to so many people. We live in a world that tells you that you should not be happy being yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't self improve. It doesn't mean that you can't be the best version of yourself. But being the best version of yourself does not mean being someone else. And that is what the pursuit of perfection, the disease, has done to this world. Same thing, you can tie this into the election. No politician that you elect is going to take away all of your problems and make everything perfect. They have you all up under the perfect effect. They have you all up under the Walt Disney effect. All of these people, from the politicians down to the celebrities, they are up under the Walt Disney cult. They're up under the Walt Disney effect. He is still alive because his influence is still alive. He owns his company owns FX. They bought American Horror Story. Ryan Murphy is up under him. They're all up under they're up under that effect in the pursuit of perfection. And in the pursuit of perfection, you lose your creativity. Because if everything is perfect, then what else is there to create? What else is there to create? So once you reach perfection, what else is there to do? We are put in the universe, and not in the universe, but we bring our, we are here to create. We are here to be creative beings, not to be perfect. What makes humans and life so interesting is our constant pursuit of creating, creativity, exploring new things. How can you do that? How can you how can you do that under the guise of the disease called perfection or being perfect? And being perfect is not really perfect. Do y'all feel? I know some people may understand what I'm saying. There's a difference in people that are working on themselves, trying to be a better version of themselves. Hell, I'm always trying to be a better version of myself. A lot of times I go into meditation and I think about how my actions may have affected those that I've hurt in my life. How is that affecting them? How are they doing? Are they okay? Those are things that real individuals think about who have a conscience. And not just a conscience here, but a conscience somewhere else as well. How does my actions affect people across the realms? One of the main reasons that we're having the problems that we're having in this world is because you have a bunch of spiritually barren followers pretending to be leaders who want to implement these policies of perfection against humanity. Having peace, let me be clear, having peace doesn't mean that you're going to have perfection. The pursuit of being perfect and perfection is killing people. That is killing people. That is destroying people's minds. It's destroying their spirits. And it's making us a cold, heartless society. And people are not getting it. There was a young boy who was working up under Walt Disney. He was an actor under Walt Disney Studios, if I'm not mistaken. And his name was Bobby Driscoll. And Walt Disney and the Walt Disney Institution destroyed his life. He died when he was only 30 or 31 years old. Because after he reached the age of 16, Disney would not hire him anymore or put him in any more movies because they said he lost his value. And that's because allegedly they had this child in different types of ritualistic types of perversions. And once he aged out, he was no longer desirable, I guess, to these old, sick, perverted men like Walt Disney allegedly. Because these types of people are on a pursuit of perfection. That is why they want people to stay looking like children. That is why some of these men get so angry when women start to age because they already know that they're aging and they have a self-hatred towards themselves already. A lot of these types of men, they hate themselves. Andrew Tate, he hates himself. His brother Tristan, they hate themselves. Andrew Tate made a statement one time that men, and this is he said that I want any heterosexual men that listen to this, I want you to hear me. I want you to hear me. That's what he's promoting. That's homosexuality. They ain't got nothing to do with gay people. He made a statement, Andrew Tate, publicly that you can look up that any man that has sex with a woman and enjoys it is gay. Sex is supposed to be for procreation, not enjoyment. Men who think that this feels good on my wee wee are probably gay. Men that are 40 and only have less than 5 children are probably gay. Where's he getting this shit from? When he's pushing 40, looking like he's going on 50. Where is he getting this from? A man that enjoys sexual intercourse with a woman is gay, and this is who you all are following? You allow that to talk to you like that? You you listen to these ideologies? That's because he's on in pursuit of perfection. He lives in disease. He has a diseased mind. He wants a perfect world where everything goes perfectly. And anyone that's not in alignment with that, they'll take them out. And they call that perfection. I think they've even had episodes of The Twilight Zone that were like that. And I'm talking about the old Twilight Zone. The old Twilight Zone was telling us what was to come in the future. Just like they predicted the white guys holding the tiki torches. No disrespect to white men, but I'm making a point. They predicted that Charlotte incident in the Twilight Zone 50 years prior. Go and look it up. They predicted the rise or the rebirth of Adolf Hitler. We're seeing that now. And I don't mean rebirth as in physical rebirth, but the rebirth of his ideologies. And when you really examine the white supremacist ideologies, they really align with the pursuit of perfection, which is a disease. And the same can be said for the black conscious stuff too. The pursuit of perfection. You got to do this. You got to do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it all leads to the same place: death and destruction, and mayhem, and chaos, and havoc. Go and check out that movie, The Substance, with Demi Moore. Go and check it out. I just wanted to say that. This is the occult view. I've been very busy lately. I haven't had time to really make a lot of videos. There's a lot going on. I'm trying to do some things. I'm not going to get into, what it is, but there's some pretty good things coming my way, and I'm happy about that. And I just don't have time for YouTube stuff. But I wanted to speak on that because, I see a lot of men, especially a lot of these old men. How can you be 59 years old? Let me just say this. How can you be 59, 60 years old and telling somebody, oh, if you're over the age of 35, I don't want you? And I'm talking about gay men and bisexual men too. Y'all motherfuckers too. How can you be that old but trying to tell somebody what age you don't want? You should be glad anybody would want to talk to you, especially when most of you are hiding your faces. In the pursuit of perfection is what is going to destroy so many people. And that is what is destroying so many people because people feel like they can't be themselves. So they want to be somebody else. That is why they set up Snapchats and all this other stuff. Because people can be whomever they want to be behind these computers and apps and anything. And I guess that can include me too. But I'm not perfect by far. And I don't want to be. I try to be the best version of myself. I try to be that. And I try to be that, but that's a pursuit in and of itself. But I'm not perfect. I am not perfect, and I'm not trying to be. Now, if the spirit dictates perfection, that's something different. Let me be clear about that. Let me just clear that up. But I'm talking about humans trying to dictate perfection leads to havoc, and it leads to death and destruction. And it leads to the exploitation of vulnerable and innocent people like children. Go and look up the movie The Substance. Go watch it. Okay? Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.